Usually when you're 22, you're just trying to figure out which entry-level job won't make you want to cry in the break room. But Mohammad Reza Pahlavi had a slightly different week than the most of us. In 1941, his father was asked politely to retire by the British and the Soviets because to them, they thought he was allied with the Nazis since he wouldn't fire his German engineers. And, just like that, Mohammed was handed a crown, a throne, and an entire country full of oil. He didn't have to have an interview for the position. The big powers just dropped the keys on his desk and told him to keep the engine running until they were done with the war. But, what could go wrong? Surely nothing too serious, right?
I have a divine command of doing...
Wait, did I hear that right? Divine command? Was this guy appointed by God? Did the people get the memo? It's a pretty great gig if you can get it. I'm just wondering if during those heavenly orientations, anyone mentioned that the King of Kings would be billing the taxpayers for 18 tons of French food. Sounds like a lot for a guy on a mission from God, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's continue.
Of doing what I'm doing. And this in addition to the special relationship between the Persian people and their king. That makes it a very special relationship that maybe some other people could not understand.
The Shah really believed in that special connection. He thought he was the star of the show. But while Muhammad was busy feeling divine in the palace, the rest of the world was busy fighting a war, and it turns out the Allies didn't really care about his mission from God. They had a bigger problem, you see. The Allies needed a shortcut to get those tanks and planes to Russia in order to stop Hitler, and there was only one tiny obstacle, and that was Iran. Iran said that they were neutral, but they weren't taking any sides. They just wanted to be left alone. But neutral was just another word for in the way. This is what happens when your neutral navy gets in the way of a British logistics plan. The idea was that they had to invade to stop Nazi influence, but look at the map and the CIA's own homework. That changed during World War II and the immediate post-war years. During the war, Iran was an important route for American aid to the Soviet army, engaged in a life or death struggle with Hitler's Wehrmacht. Soviet troops remained in northern Iran immediately after the war, encouraging pro-communist separatist regimes in Iranian Azerbaijan and in the Kurdish region. For a time, it appeared to Washington that Moscow would demand the unification of Iranian Azerbaijan with Soviet Azerbaijan. But this problem evaporated once Stalin understood that the United States would not permit such an aggressive move. The CIA history says that after the war, Stalin tried to snatch northern Iran for himself. It mentions Washington stood to protect democracy and stop Soviet aggression. Sounds like a James Bond movie, right? Cold War intrigue, a villain in the mountain lair, and a hero swooping in to save the day. But the thing about James Bond movies is that they usually leave out the really scary stuff like shipping manifests, the port tax exemptions, and the actuarial tables that decide how much Iranian soil is worth to the British Navy. You see, Iran wasn't just a country to us. To the Western states, Iran was a conveyor belt. During the war, we sent nearly a quarter of all American aid to the Soviet army through the desert. And here's the thing. If we sent those tanks through the North Sea, we lost 20% of them to Nazi U-boats, but through Iran, we only lost 8%. So, when Stalin decided to stick around after the war, Washington wasn't really concerned with Iranian voting rights. They were more concerned with the Soviet Union trying to occupy the most efficient delivery route on the planet. It's funny how fighting for democracy seems to happen right where the most important routes are, trying to protect a delivery schedule, rather than the lives of people and citizens. The Western powers had their shortcut and they had their gas station. Now they just needed a local manager to keep the door open and the trains running. But here's the thing. The people in charge weren't even sure if Muhammad was the right guy for the job. He wasn't the first choice, nor their second. They were shopping for a leader at the time. They considered backing a religious leader named Ayatollah Kashani. They even looked at a general named Zahidi. But they were looking for someone who wouldn't complain about the foreign tanks in the driveway. But then came around 1951, and the Iranians decided that they had enough of being the world's most convenient doormat for foreign corporations. They elected a guy named Mohammad Mossadegh. Now Mossadegh wasn't a general, nor a king. He was more trustworthy than that. He was a lawyer and a Democrat who had this really radical idea. He looked at the Abadan refinery, which was the largest and most profitable refinery on the entire planet, and thought, hey, maybe the people living on top of this oil should actually own it. No, crazy, right? He wanted to take the world's biggest cash cow and turn it into a national asset for Iran. But turns out the people in London weren't exactly in any mood to share the milk.
95% of the oil is exported and sold abroad. I do not know of any country which has attempted to nationalize an export business of 95% of the product. The Persians think that by nationalizing oil they are going to get rich. Unfortunately, the reverse will be the case.
Yes, that is Persia's problem.
London was in a state of panic at this point. Their biggest asset was being stolen by a guy with a lawyer's degree, so they did what any global corporation does when a local manager tries to take over. They called in the corporate enforcers. And in 1953, those enforcers worked at the CIA. The operation was called Operation Ajax. They spent, a few $1 million, which was a lot of money back then. Hired some professional rioters and basically bought themselves a revolution. It was like a corporate takeover, but with more tanks and less HR involvement. Manuker Farman Farmayan, a member of the Iranian nobility, was present when Naziri brought the documents to the Shah and relates in his memoirs the circumstances of this historic event. One afternoon, the Shah was relaxing outside with a circle of friends. A butler approached and whispered into the Shah's ear, and the Shah replied loudly, "Tell him to come in." A man in a dark suit whom Farman Farmayan did not recognize appeared from behind some trees, and after a few words with the Shah, presented him with a document. The Shah asked if anyone had a pen. Farman Farmayan offered his. After signing the document, the Shah noted that the pen would be worth much more than he'd used to sign the paper. "A fortune?" Farman Farmayan joked. "Perhaps," the monarch replied. "Perhaps it will bring us all luck as well." Farman Farmayan writes that he found out later that the messenger had been sent by Kermit Roosevelt, and the document the Shah had signed appointed General Zahedi Prime Minister. And here is the smoking gun. The CIA history admits that Kermit Roosevelt, grandson of Teddy Roosevelt, was the one actually calling the shots. He hand-delivered the papers to the Shah, who was so scared he actually fled to Italy. Once the king signed on the dotted line, Mossadegh's democratic government became illegal by sunset. The Shah was back in power, and the oil stayed exactly where the West wanted it. Democracy is great, as long as you don't try to keep your own stuff.
The 48-year-old Shah proudly wore the Pahlavi crown, heavy with its 3,380 diamonds.
By 1971, the substitute teacher had graduated. Muhammad had become the king of kings, and he decided it was time to show the world just how divine he really was. He decided to throw a party, the biggest, most expensive party in human history to be exact, to celebrate the 2500th anniversary of the Persian Empire, and he wasn't going to let a little thing like being in the middle of a desert get in the way of a 5-star blowout.
Who is here today? Well, 69 heads of state, and it's quite a list, either the heads themselves or their representatives. The list includes 1 emperor, 8 kings, 5 queens, 15 presidents, 5 emirs, 4 ruling princes and dukes, 1 royal princess, 2 governor generals, 2 heirs apparent, 4 junior princes, 3 vice presidents, including Vice President Agnew, 4 prime ministers, 7 sheiks, and 1 wife of a president, and that's everything but a partridge in a pear tree.
He invited 69 world leaders, kings, queens, princes, and even Spiro Agnew, former vice president of the United States. He built a tent city, not the Boy Scout tents that you are familiar with. These were silk-lined suites with air conditioning and marble bathrooms.
When Princess Anne and the Duke arrive here at Persepolis for the 3-day party, they'll be accommodated, like all the rest of the 60 heads of state, in a tent. In fact, we're told, in this tent, although protocol might change their minds and switch everybody round. Now, this is the sort of thing they'll have in each of these tents. There are 6 cut glasses on a tortoiseshell tray. There's this perfumed candle in a glass cylinder with a decorative snake, and an ornamental Iranian ashtray.
For morning tea,
All Princess Anne will have to do is give a little tinkle on her bedside bell, for near at hand is her personal maid, who sleeps on a fold-away bed in the kitchen. It's fully equipped, as are all the arrangements. The tents are all tastefully situated in a forest of young trees, 15,000 of them flown in specially from Versailles, not to mention the 15,000 flowering shrubs. And then in the top-secret banqueting tent is the food, 4 tons of it, again all from Paris. There's even a French-built royal club.
The catering, he didn't trust the locals. He flew in 18 tons of food from Maxime's in Paris, 1,000 kilos of caviar, roast peacocks stuffed with foie gras, and quail eggs stuffed with even more caviar. The bill for the weekend? Estimates range from $100 million to $600 million. To put that into an idea, that's enough to buy a lot of bread for a land that is 5 times the size of Great Britain. But the Shah wasn't worried about bread. He was making sure that the Prince of Monaco had enough champagne. While the Shah was busy building fountains in the desert to keep his guests cool, 80% of Iran was facing the worst drought in a generation. To make the desert look like a forest for his guests, the Shah flew in 50,000 songbirds from Europe, but he forgot one thing. It's 110 degrees in the Iranian desert. The birds all died of heat stroke in 3 days. 50,000 bird funerals because the King of Kings wanted a soundtrack for his appetizers. He was importing Evian water from France while his own farmers were watching their sheep die of thirst. I hope those quail eggs were worth it. By 1978, the great civilization was looking a lot less civilized. While the Shah was busy being the world's most expensive host, his own people were finding out that you can't eat diamonds and you can't drink French champagne when your wells are dry. Remember that special relationship he was talking about earlier? It seems that the people had a different way of showing their affection. They weren't really fans of the quail eggs or songbirds. They wanted their country back.
It was the second time in his 37 years on the peacock throne that the Shah was forced to flee Iran, the first time in August 1953 when he was ousted in a brief parliamentary takeover. The CIA put him back in power 6 days later. But many observers believe today's departure will spell the end of the 59-year-old monarch's rule. As he and his wife, the Empress Farah, left Tehran, the Shah carried a small container of Iranian soil. He piloted an Iranian Air Force jet on a flight to Aswan, Egypt, the first stop toward his ultimate destination, the United States.
In January 1979, the King of Kings walked across the tarmac for the last time. No crown, no silk tents. He left with a small box of Iranian soil and a final souvenir of the land he thought he owned. The great civilization didn't have much of a return policy. Once the statues were down and the secret police had fled, that was it. The divine command didn't mention that when the songbirds are dead and the farmers are thirsty, the people eventually will stop clapping. I guess God forgot to mention that in the job interview, but we'll see what happens in the next revolution.